especially like the stem splitter that you learned about in Logic. You know how we can load a track.
Oh, yeah.
It'll split the drum track from the bass, and you know it's not perfect yet. If there's mid-range instruments like guitars and synths, it kind of struggles with a lot of that still. But if you want to isolate a vocal or a kick and a snare, the AI works great. And Melodyne was actually really the first one to kind of do that in a sense where before with plugins, we were only looking at pitch and time, you know, left and right and up and down. But with Melodyne, we were given a third dimension. We were able to look at tone 3D all around the waveform. So Melodyne was the first thing I ever saw where, say I had something polyphonic, say I had a piano that was playing chords on and the piano's out of tune. Melodyne was the first, I think in Melodyne 4, which was about 10 years ago, was the first piece of software where you could load in something polyphonic and split the notes apart and actually be able to tune individual notes within the wave file.
What up,
revolutionary.
What up,
incredible.
What up,
Honestly, I hardly have ever used it for that. If something's kind of out of tune, like a guitar or a piano, I usually just end up living with it, or I detune it even more, or we just go and retrack it and we do it right. You know, I haven't used it to great success on being like, ooh, this track is awesome, but you know, the D string was just a little out. Let me touch it up. I mean, I'm sure people do it. I just haven't done it much. But Melodyne, it is fascinating. It's a great piece of software, and you're so lucky you get it as part of your launch box now. That's a $99 value. And as I stated, I think back in lecture 1, make sure you registered for those emails. Make sure you're looking at those emails from Celemony, because the holidays are almost upon us. In about another month, you're going to get an email from Melodyne saying, hey, for 50 bones, you can jump up from Essential to Assistant. And once you get to Assistant, you'll get a lot of the tools that you see on my version. I'm on the most expensive version, which is Studio. And I didn't buy that outright. I think Studio lists for like $7.99 or something. It's like a $800 plugin. One of the most expensive pieces of software you can buy as far as an audio plugin goes. But if you do the upgrade path, it's so much cheaper. Like to go from Essential to Assistant, I think is only $50. To go from Assistant to Editor, I think they want another $99. And then when you go from Editor to Studio, the full-blown one, it's like another $150. So I think if you do the upgrade path, it's usually about less than $300 as opposed to buying it outright for $600 or $700. But that's you know, you only need to go up to Studio if you're like, man, you're tuning vocals all the time. It's like all you kind of do, or you're dealing with stacks of vocals and like lots of backgrounds, and you might want to hop to that. But really, once you get to Assistant, you have everything you need to really do vocals effectively. I mean, you can tune effectively just with Essential, which what you have. It just makes it a little harder because you only have the main tool to work with. You don't have all the tools separated like you do on one of the better versions. So anyway, you can learn about that when we get farther down the PDF. I do encourage you all to watch this video on Peter Neubacher. He's a German mad scientist. This guy's like a hippie scientist. There's a really cool like 25-minute YouTube video that I've been showing to the class for decades now. Not decades, but I have probably been showing the classes for about 12 or 14 years or so. Or, you know, I've been at Full Sail for almost 15, but I would say within the first couple of years I started showing the classes. It's a really fascinating watch on the inventor of Melodyne and he's just great.
Why no one had ever accomplished polyphonic note separation in this way before is something even I don't know. There's no trick to it. Normally, music is understood as something that people make, but for me, music exists even without people. That sounds perhaps a little absurd. Earlier in antiquity, a distinction was made between musica mundana, the music that had always existed as such in the world, but not sounding, but as an idea, and musica humana, that which is made by human beings. By the same token, music already exists for me as an ideal essence, before it's made by human beings. So music has nothing to do with sound waves? No, it is merely realized through sound waves.
Made audible, in other words.
There are many statements in philosophy to this effect. For example, Leibniz said, when we hear music, the mind calculates unconsciously. And hence, the pleasure we derive from music is in fact pleasure in the relationship between the numbers. But when I say numbers, I'm always afraid of giving the impression that I'm referring to something dead. Numbers, however, are living structures and relationships. For instance, the ratio 2 to 3 is not only a 2 and a 3, but a proportion, the interrelationship of two entities. And it is these relationships that we experience in music. Look, a hummingbird hawk moth. They really look like hummingbirds.
Musik besteht eigentlich aus Zahlen.
Music actually consists of numbers, of numerical relationships. For me, that is what constitutes music in its essence. When you sing a melody, an interpretation is added to it, perhaps as the expression of a feeling. The actual musical element, however, is already there before the feeling, and I can perhaps make use of an especially well-suited melody to express a particular feeling. That which is musical in the melody, however, is more comprehensive and earlier in origin than the feeling for which I'm making use of it. I always hear, so to speak, the interval relationships when I think of a number. When I hear the number 3, I experience it in the quality of a fifth. The Pythagoreans said that the entire world is number. They were referring to the very direct relationship between numbers and musical intervals, and also to the fact that the smaller the number, the more distinctive the interval. For the small numbers are actually the big ones, at least that's the way I feel about it. A number such as 3,750,895 may be very large, but it's insignificant. The larger the number, the more arbitrary it is. If I subtract 20, it's in principle still the same number. But a 1, a 2, or a 3, these are the really big numbers. If I say 1, there is as yet nothing else. 1 is the whole, and 2 is the octave. It brings nothing new either. We say C, 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 it's always the same note. We experience it only as a variation in brightness. The number 3 is the first to bring with it a new note, a new quality. The old tuning system of Pythagoras, for example, is based entirely on the number 3. To each new note that is formed by the 3, another 3 is applied. This is a monochord, in the strictest sense of the term, as it only has one string. They say it was with this that Pythagoras conducted his experiments. Not with this actual instrument, of course, but with one just like it.
Did you make this yourself?
Yes, I made it myself. With an instrument like this, the Pythagoreans discovered the numerical ratios in music. The underlying graphic here shows which notes are located where. If, for instance, I stop the string here, at the halfway mark, the octave sounds. And the nice thing is that this graphic initially has nothing to do with the string and the notes, but is simply a representation of all the rational numbers. In this case, all the fractions up to 100. Here's a 100th, 200th, 300th, and so on, 199th, and so on. What I find so impressive is that the numbers are not arranged uniformly or amorphously, but exhibit an inherent structure. The number 2 in the middle here, and the number 3, are more isolated from the other numbers, and have larger gaps around them. That's what I mean when I say the smaller the number, the greater it is. This now is a different view of the order of the numbers. In this case, They're arranged like the Greek letter lambda, which is why this diagram is known as the lambdoma. Here we have the 1, the 2, the 3, 4, 5, and so on, which the ancients understood as musical numbers. And this would be the direction in which the overtones, that is, the integer divisions of the string, lie.
So 2 would be this one.
Exactly. And here we have their reciprocals, that is, a half, a third, a fourth, a fifth. When you now apply it to a string, here are the string lengths, and these here could be understood as frequencies. Or the other way around, the relationship is complementary and reciprocal. When you continue the schema, you can construct for each overtone an undertone series. Or the other way around, for every undertone an overtone series. And then you get this diagram, which is called the lambdoma. I prepared this one in advance.
Was man dann eben auch Lambdoma nennt. Und was nehmen wir 2/5 zum Beispiel?
2 divided by 5, for example, is here.
Wäre aber da und so weiter.
And so on.
Das heißt, das finde ich auch so.
All these lines, the equal tone lines, they converge here.
Die treffen sich hier.
That's not self-evident.
Geometrically, perhaps it is, but I find it purely as a symbol very beautiful. If you pursue it, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, here, for example, is 0. Half 0, a third of 0, everything that lies here on this side is 0. And if I follow the numbers on the other side, then I have here 2 divided by 2, 2 divided by 1, 2 divided by 0, which mathematicians describe as undefined. 3 divided by 0, 1 divided by 0. That means here we have infinity, and here we have 0. And here, where the two lines meet, is 0 divided by 0, from which all notes emerge. Not from the infinite and not from nothingness, but from where the infinite and nothingness meet. That's the point from which all notes emerge. As an image, I find that simply beautiful. Here, once again, are the equal tone lines, which we've just drawn. And here, too, they converge at the point 0 over 0. Here I can now set all the intervals. For example, 2 over 3. More precisely, then we have the fifth.
That's crazy.
The large whole tone is here.
Where exactly?
16/18 or 8/9.
Und dann der kleine
The small whole tone is found at 18/20 or 9/10.
18/20 oder 9/10.
So the interval is slightly smaller.
Ja.
I think I have a favorite interval, which is 5 to 8, the minor sixth.
Die alten Griechen zum Beispiel verstanden unter Mathematik.
The ancient Greeks initially understood by mathematics only geometry. So I'm very old-fashioned in this respect. Grasping, touching, and making things contributes to a better understanding of them. I'm very haptic in this respect.
Oh, see, I told y'all.
Beim Programmieren, bei
Listen,
Programming also
I told people that's they wonder. Okay, people wonder how they built the pyramids back in the ancient times, right? And they don't want y'all to know this. It's like a diamond. They actually built it from the ground. They built it like a diamond. So they dug in the ground, right? And then they built like this, and then they built up. You get what I'm saying? They built like, on scaffolds. So imagine building like a wooden frame and then cementing it all in. Watch the picture again. This is how I believe that pyramids were made. I've told people that.
helps to make things mathematics only geometry. So I'm very old-fashioned in this respect. Grasping, touch, and making things contributes to a better understanding.
Like that. That's how the pyramid was made. So they dug underground, and then they was able to. They actually built from. I'm sorry. They actually built from the top down into the ground, and then they dug out everything around it, and that's how they got it. So they didn't carry all those huge stones all the way up here. They started from the top of the ground. That's why if you look, a lot of it got covered up by like sand and dirt, and that's why you see in pyramids, it's like some of them are sitting up here and some of them are sitting down here. So let's just say that this was the ground, right? They dug all the way into the ground. So they started from the top, started digging the earth. Now you probably had about that much of the pyramid. Then they kept digging, and then they. So all we see is this top part of the pyramid. We're not seeing that other bottom structure. They don't want y'all to know that. That's how the pyramid was built. Look at it. Perfect geometry.
Of them. I'm very haptic in this respect.
Sehr haptisch. Ich muss auch beim Programmieren beispielsweise.
Programming also helps to make things that I only imagine initially on a theoretical level more concrete and easier to grasp. When I have captured something in an algorithm and observed the results, it helps me to grasp the concepts inwardly.
Is it a coincidence that you keep your notebook next to Kepler, the great astronomer?
Hier steht eigentlich alles.
This is where I keep everything to do with Kepler and harmonics. It's near the dining table, and the notebook is there for reference.
Notebook als Nachschlagewerk dann auch, aber der Kepler ist tatsächlich so.
But Kepler's A Harmony of the World is one of my main sources of inspiration. The Harmony of the World is, in fact, what it's always all about. In the book, Kepler describes the relationship between the musical harmony of the world and geometry.
Der Welt und mit der Geometrie beschreibt. Die Idee davon war, dass wir
This
das, was
is a musical chaos pendulum. We wanted to translate into music something normally represented graphically as chaos or fractals.
Und das hat mich irgendwie schon immer
It's always fascinated me that a simple mathematical formula can produce a shape, as is seen with the Mandelbrot set, or in the form of other fractal images.
eine Gestalt hervorbringt. Ich habe hier mal als Beispiel vielleicht
Take, for example, these images.
Bilder von anderen Fraktalen, wo man
Fractals function in such a way that you have a very simple function, perhaps just one line of program code.
eine ganz einfache Formel hat.
And this is then repeated indefinitely, so that structures emerge from it.
Das wird so immer wiederholt und dann kommen dabei irgendwelche Strukturen raus. Und
That are all self-similar. It is a reiterative process, and it results in self-similarity, which we encounter constantly in nature as well.
ja, das finde ich auch einfach.
Yeah, it's just this that I find fascinating, that conformity to a very simple law, such as an angle of ramification, can give rise to a particular shape that allows us to distinguish one thing from another, to say, for example, this is an oak and not a beech.
Der Musik.
I think that similar processes are to be found also in music. Simple numerical relationships are nested and interact in complex ways to weave a fabric, which we experience then as music.
He in the zone. He's translating all that shit.
If one /horizontal filter mit minus filter
No, it's just a hyphen.
Bindestrich unten zunächst mit einem Nachbarn 0,25. Okay, what does that mean? Did you write it like that yourself?
Das habe ich so geschrieben.
Yeah, I wrote it that way. It's a bit abstruse. I write the actual program code in English, but my comments in German.
Kommentare schreibe ich in Deutsch rein. Unsere Programmier.
When we're programming, we always
Bro, people don't know, man. Like, There's some other videos that I will show y'all, like in Germany, like Germans, bro, like back in like the World War One and World War Two, bro, they were like a lot of musically inclined people from Germany. I got videos archived from school and stuff, and I'll show y'all. There's this band from Germany, bro. They made music out of like trash cans and power drills and flames and all other type of noises and stuff, like, and was actually playing the stuff. You know what I'm saying? It was wild.
Give the variables and functions names that allow you to read the code as though it were text.
Fast lesen kann wie Klartext.
We'll get back into this later, though. I gotta get
It's in
back.
German. It's English overdubs, but really cool science stuff he goes about and philosophizes about music, and it's a cool watch. So if you got 20 minutes, grab your popcorn and just check it out. Otherwise, remember, anything that's orange and underlined is a video or a link. Here explains ARA2. We are using this as an ARA plugin, meaning it's going to be found in the same spot as your Elastic Audio plugins. Oh, that's something else we're going to do at the end too. We're going to use Elastic Pro. We're going to do some timing again today. Instead of nudge editing, we're going to use warp markers in Elastic Audio. Okay, I know you saw some Elastic last month with Kendall. We're going to take it a little further this month. But ARA2, why is that better? Why should we use that as opposed to using the insert? For years, forever, until just a couple years ago, we always just loaded Melodyne just like any other plugin. You can come here, go to Celemony, and load that in. But we're not doing that. Do not use it as an insert. If you use it as an insert, you actually have to hit transfer and you have to load in all the audio and then wait for it to process, and then you can start working with it. I forget what the A stands for in ARA. It's like audio random access or automatic random access. I'd have to look at the link again. But it's random access. It's almost like it gets loaded into RAM. As I explained last week, audio, when we're using a clip off our hard drive in the session, like this LV is living on my hard drive on my computer, the wave clip, before it enters the Pro Tools mixer here, what it sees first is actually your ARA or your track plugins. So the very first thing it would hit if you loaded it would be Elastic Pro or one of these EA plugins. But we're going to use Melodyne, and that'd be the first thing. So it hits Melodyne before it goes into your Pro Tools mixer. And the other cool thing about ARA, it loads all that audio in at once, and you can just jump around and fly around. It redraws the waveform much quicker. It accesses the audio much quicker. There's no lag. It's very clean. That's why we're using it. It's just, this is the new way of doing things. I think Logic finally has ARA2 from Melodyne. I have to look that up, but as of like 6 months ago, they didn't. So they were actually a little behind compared to Pro Tools, which is a change for once. So Melodyne, big fan.
Hey, do me a favor, y'all hit that like button so I can get in the
I'm not going to go through all these videos. Again, there are videos here for you to watch. And I was happy to realize that a lot of you were watching the videos last week, because everybody told me about that video that didn't work. I apologize for that. I have to reload it. I have no idea why the sharing permissions went away on that one waveform video. I'll double check that all these are working today. If not, I'll reload them quickly and send out a new PDF. But I'm pretty sure everything's working. I haven't heard anything yet. But each one of these, I should put, it says video after that. So make sure, just like last week, this is all informative. Watch this and dig in so you understand what's going on with Melodyne. I'm going to cover it quickly here right now, but this goes much more in depth and much slower. Watch the PDF videos. So for setting up Melodyne and how ARA works, there's a couple videos there. Then, I'll go over through, let's just go through this really quick as we go. So I already talked about ARA. Let's go ahead and load these. I'm going to load them on both tracks right away. So let's go to where the Elastic Audio is. Now this is important. What we're going to see is we're going to see the Melodyne window pop up. We're going to see it think for a second. You're going to see a little clock go by. It'll take the waveform, and you should see the waveform split up into different notes. If you don't see it split up, then you need to turn off Melodyne. You need to close the session. You need to reopen it and do it again, and it's going to work. This will happen to like 1 in 50 people. It's just one little one little bug that's involved with this, but make sure you see the notes split up. If you don't, you're not going to be able to use this at all. Okay, so everybody should be on the latest Pro Tools. You're on the latest
Appreciate it. Thank you.
version of Melodyne. You're on the OS that's compatible with this version. That's why I do this, because otherwise, if people don't, this is when they have problem with third-party plugins. This is when things don't work. But about all of you are on the right versions. We went through that in week 1, so it's going to be a smooth week for us. I'm going to go ahead and load Melodyne. See it thinks, and boom, it should split everything up. If you don't see that split up, then do this. Go ahead and don't touch it. Go ahead and turn it off. Close the session, Command-Shift-W, hit save. Reopen the session, Command-Shift-O. And then reload it, okay? But fortunately, and one time this did do it in front of the class. It was great. It didn't work for me, but typically it just about always works for me. So we're going to load up the LV. Takes a second, splits up. Same thing with the LV double track below it. Let's go ahead and load it on that one as well. Melodyne. Voila. Okay, now whatever track you click on, remember I said back in week 1, click on the track that you're working on. So if I'm working on my LV, if I click on that, notice as it switches over to the Melodyne for the lead vocal track. If I click on the double, it's now showing me the Melodyne window for the double track.
That's
okay.
dope.
Let's make sure I'm not skipping anything here. A few things that you always want to check before you start editing. First thing is we need to turn off the pitch grid. And this is interesting. It actually loaded this time with the pitch grid active. I don't know why. Usually I turn it off. It stays off. The pitch grid is located right here. It's the top left of that Melodyne window. It's that treble clef. Anybody that's taking a music lesson, you probably know that's the treble clef. See how it's highlighted in white? You want to click on that and make sure it's black. We want it off. Notice it says pitch grid on-off settings. You can also click and hold, and there's a menu. I'll go over these other ones on the bottom here. But notice it says chromatic snap. We don't want that. If we had that on...
I gotta use the bathroom real quick, y'all. So I'm going to pause it. If y'all want to stay, give me about 5 minutes. What's good, YouTube? Give me a second, y'all. I'll be right back. How do I pause this? Can you pause on here?
Oops, I thought I had it on. Let me turn it back on. If it's on, it only goes by half steps. I can't move in between the note. We need to move in between the half steps. So this is like a pitch grid. If we think of grid mode in Pro Tools, this is the grid mode in Melodyne. We want this off. Like, make sure it says either that's turned off, it's unhighlighted, it's a black treble clef now, or just make sure no snap is selected. So no snap, and now listen. Right? We hear the synthesized voice. We can slip between the pitches, and that's what has to happen. If you don't turn that snap off, you're going to do horribly on this assignment. Okay, so step 1, make sure the pitch grid is off, no note snap is off. Okay. The next thing to do is you can check. I would just check some of these settings. Melodyne works as a standalone plugin, so it has its own menu bar. But I would just, first thing on this options menu here, please make sure those two are checked. Follow selection in DAW and zoom to selection in DAW. I actually keep auto scroll on. That's up to you if you want it to scroll. I do like it to scroll myself. But make sure these two are checked. Why? Because it makes life so much easier. This is one of the greatest things about the